In this tutorial, we're going to learn to make this modern Tunisian quilt. And we can cut away here to a nice photo showing the whole thing. This is a free pattern and free video tutorial sponsored by Knitter's Pride. I used their products when I designed the pattern, and I highly recommend using their products when making this pattern. And we'll talk more about the tools that I used. But for now, I'll let you know you don't have to have any Tunisian crochet experience at all. I'm going to show you how to work Tunisian crochet. Tunisian crochet is kind of a cross between knitting and purling that makes a really nice flat fabric that's perfect for cross stitching. We're going to cover all of that. If you look in the video description field below, I'll also give you a link here to my website, and that will let you know the tools you need, the yarn you need, the hook size, everything else is all on there, as well as links for more information on the tools that I used from Knitter's Pride. And first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to learn how to work Tunisian crochet, and that's coming up in the next segment. If you're ready to go on this quilt, you've got your free pattern and you've taken a look at the materials that you need. I'm going to talk a bit about the tools from Knitter's Pride that I used when I designed and made this. And the first thing and the most important thing that I used is this interchangeable Tunisian crochet hook set. It has 8 different sizes from E to L in American sizes. And Tunisian crochet takes a long hook because it's kind of like a cross between knitting and crochet. You always have loops on the hook like you have loops on the knitting needle. And so you put something, you attach a cord to the size hook that you need, and you put a stopper on the end. And this is what you need to work wide panels of Tunisian crochet. And this is a really handy kit to have. I love it. If you haven't used a Tunisian crochet hook with a cord in a while, Knitter's Pride has brought these tools into the new century. These are state-of-the-art tools. They're really nice to use. I know, 20 years ago when I was using Tunisian crochet hooks with a cord on them, the cord would catch the yarn or always twist up, or you couldn't slide things across. That is no longer a problem. These are really nice to have. It's also really nice to have an interchangeable set because even though I tell you a hook size to use or needle size in my knitting tutorials, your tension might be different than mine, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you might hold the yarn a little tighter or a little more loosely, and that's your thing. There's nothing wrong with that, but you do have to adjust your hook size to get the same stitches per inch that I'm getting in the pattern or that any designer is getting in a pattern if you want your item to turn out looking like the pattern photo. So my point is that if you start out with hook size K, like I recommend in the pattern, there's always a chance that you're going to need to go up or down to get the right tension. And Tunisian crochet actually, in my experience, you need a much bigger hook than you think you do. If you always use a size H crochet hook with worsted weight yarn, you're probably going to need to go up just because Tunisian crochet is a different animal. Okay, Tunisian crochet hooks, these are awesome. The video description field below will have more information on these and the knit blockers. I talked about these on Facebook and everyone went nuts. This is a box of knit blockers. They are what you use when you're blocking items instead of using straight pins. When you're blocking square items like we are for this quilt, you want to put pins in to straighten everything out and square it out. But the pins can cause a scalloped edge just because of what they are. These actually, the small ones actually have 4 pins in it. So when you pull it out and stick it in your blocking board, it's holding it a much longer edge, keeping it from having the scalloped ones. That's a short one. Then there's also these longer ones with 8 pins. These are a great product. I had never seen anything like these before until I got a kit of my own, and these are pretty much all I use for blocking anymore. Really like them. I'll show them in action later in the tutorial once we get to that part of it. But for now, we're actually going to learn how to do Tunisian crochet, which is really fun and pretty quick. So let's go ahead and take a look at my hands. So we're going to start out with a crochet chain, and if you've never worked a crochet chain before, I'll give you a link here to a slow demonstration of making a crochet chain. I actually want to leave about a 6-inch tail. And the pattern's very clear about how many you need to chain for each section. I'm just going to chain some to give you an idea of how to do this. So you have your crochet chain and you see that it's made up of a bunch of V's on kind of the right side, but if you flip it over, you have what I call the hyphens, or it's called the spine of the crochet chain on the back. And that's these little horizontal lines. We're going to pick up stitches in these little horizontal lines. And the first row is always the one that is the most difficult to work. It's the slowest one to work. And the first stitch of the first row is the slowest one to work. So we have the loop on the hook. A lot of patterns will have you skip the first spine. Let's not skip the first spine. You end up with a much nicer right corner if we go ahead and pick up a stitch in this first spine. And to do that, just put your hook into that spine, under that spine, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. I'm going to tighten this whole thing up a little bit. That's it. That's what we're going to do all the way across. I'm a big fan, you can see, of using my thumbnails to get the hook through the loop on the spine. And once you get the stitches picked up, the whole thing goes pretty quickly. Let me get some yarn here. I believe for the wide panels, and we're going to talk about the construction of this whole thing, the wide panels are 44 stitches, but you're actually going to have 45 loops on the hook, and that's normal. You always have one more loop on the hook than you have actual stitches showing up. So that's the first row, the first right to left row. And now to work left to right, we don't turn the work. Tunisian crochet is kind of awesome this way. You grab a loop and pull through one, and then grab a loop and pull through two, grab a loop, pull through two, all the way across. You pull through one on the first stitch, and then pull through two the rest of the way across. And when you're finished, you end up with just one loop on the hook. I'm going to show you this again, don't worry. Now, things are a bit different because we already picked up stitches in the spine of the crochet chain, but you see these vertical lines going up in the fabric? That's what we want to pick up this time, and it's really easy. I like how this goes. We have our first vertical line going up into the loop on the hook. We'll skip that one, and we'll go into the next one. Put your hook through that loop. I always give the yarn a tug here to tighten it up. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop through the next vertical line, the next, all the way across. Things get a little different on the last stitch. Okay. On this last stitch, we're not just going to pick up through this vertical line. We're going to pick up through the vertical line and the stitch kind of behind it. The vertical line and the stitch behind it kind of make an upside down V. You want to put your hook under both of those. And it might take some practice, but you'll get it and you'll see what it is each time. So I'm going to put my hook through the vertical line and then the stitch right behind it. So I've gone under two. And the reason we do this is so that we have a really tight left, or a really tighty left edge. So grab the yarn and pull up a loop like normal. And now we work a normal left to right row. Grab the yarn, pull through one, and then grab the yarn, pull through two the rest of the way across. That sound you hear is my Tunisian crochet hook stopper on the blocking board. Once I get some fabric going, it won't make that noise anymore. Okay, and then from here on out, it's just like the last row that we did. We skip the first vertical line, put our hook under the next one, grab the yarn and pull up a loop, and do that all the way across. You can see how it ends up going pretty quickly. And then on the last one, we go through the vertical line and the little stitch behind it. So there are two loops on the hook. Grab the yarn and pull through both. And then a normal left to right row. grab the yarn, pull through 1, grab the yarn, pull through 2, and grab the yarn, pull through 2 all the way across. Okay, that's Tunisian crochet. And this pattern is going to tell you exactly how many to chain, exactly how many to pick up, exactly how many rows to work. It's pretty easy to modify this pattern, you can see. And now I want to talk a bit about the construction of the blanket. I have a very tiny sample here of exactly what the pieces look like. We have borders all the way around, and then we have some cross stitch in the middle that I'm going to show you how to do. But the actual squares of the blanket are bigger than this. I made them this big so they would fit on screen. So you start with one color and you change colors, and you then you work the white block, or of course you can use any color you want, and you do this in long strips, and then you also do these narrow strips which are sewn between the long strips to give it kind of this quilt block look, even though it's done in long strips. And it is kind of important that we do it in long strips and not one super long Tunisian crochet blanket in one shot, because the seams actually provide a lot of structure for the blanket and make it so that it's not floppy. It actually holds its shape really well and looks good. But the seaming is really fun in Tunisian crochet, I think, because it goes really, it's just kind of so perfect and goes quickly. So this is what your Tunisian crochet is going to look like as you're working it. You see these beautiful little stitches, but there's something very important I want to show you. And I worked up this whole piece just to demonstrate, because no one can believe me. This is what it looks like. Let me move this. This is what it looks like when you're finished with it. Honestly, this is exactly like the piece I just showed you. But a little steam goes a long way. The only difference between this piece and this piece is steam. And the way that I did this was I used the steam iron, but I never press down with the steam iron. I just hold it over the piece and blast steam into it. And I actually have a button that I can push on my iron to make steam blast out. And then using these awesome knit blockers, you can pin the pieces into your blocking board or ironing board or wherever you like to block things out. And these things actually take steam just fine. You can blast steam onto these and it hasn't done any harm to mine. And you can see how handy it is to have these big things to square everything out. I mean, big things. They're not that big, but they certainly have a lot more grip on them than a single straight pin. You can see how this goes. And once you steam it and you put the knit blockers in it, you do want to check your yarn label to make sure that your yarn can handle steam. This happens to be a wool blend, a washable wool blend that does just fine with that. And then let it cool and dry, and when you're done, you'll end up with a piece as flat as the one that I just showed you, which is a major difference. Okay, I'm putting my knit blockers away. These are the Knitter's Pride knit blockers. Again, the information on where to find these is in the video description field below if you're watching this on YouTube, and on my website. Okay, so let's get back to this piece. You can see how nice it looks once it's been blocked out. And what I did with mine was I worked the pieces and steamed them out before I cross-stitched them, and then once I seamed the whole thing together, I steamed it out to shape and size. And then once I had the whole thing cross-stitched and steamed, I actually machine washed and dried it. And my finished blanket has actually been machine washed and dried. I wanted to show you that this yarn was going to hold up and work. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is how to change colors. I'm going to use this tiny sample. I actually could use some scissors here, because changing colors is really easy in Tunisian crochet. What you want to do is end after a left to right row with just one loop here, and you have your hook in that loop, and you work a normal right to left row with the new color of yarn. And that will be your color change. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hook into the next stitch and grab this new color of yarn and pull up a loop. And I'm just going to continue to use the new color of yarn all the way across And that's my color change. But you always want to do it on a left to right row, I guess is my point. I'm sorry, I just got that backwards. I always do that. You always want to do it on a right to left row. I'm saying the wrong words, but doing the right thing. Okay. And then just work a normal left to right row after that, and your color is changed. And the pattern's really clear about where to change colors and everything else. Okay, I think, is that everything we needed to show in this first one? Oh, I want to show you how to bind off, which is after you finish a strip, you're going to want to bind it off. Grab the yarn, pull through one, grab the yarn, pull through two. This is your last row. Oops, I pulled through three. Okay, so you'll be over here on the right with just one loop when you're ready to bind off. And you start it out like a normal row and then pull that loop through the last one. Grab the yarn and pull up a loop and then pull one loop through the other. And that is binding off. Unless you drop everything. Easily fixed. And you end up with an edge that looks a lot like the cast-on edge, which is very nice. Next up, we're going to talk about cross stitch and seaming the blanket together. In this segment, we're going to learn how to do cross stitch on Tunisian crochet and how to seam up all of the different panels of the blankets to put it together. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here I am with my tiny sample. I have my border and then the white panel, the white section. And I think the best way to work the cross stitch is every time, because you're going to do border, white section, border, white section, border, white section, border, depending on how big you make the blanket, but you do the entire vertical strip. But every time I finish one white section, I go ahead and work the Tunisian crochet because it's easier. You don't have a lot of fabric flopping around. It's just right here. In fact, I use my Tunisian crochet set and leave the stitches on the cord as a stitch holder and put a stopper on both ends so no stitches fall off. And then you have a nice thing to hang on to while you're doing the cross stitch. I'm going to do it on this steamed out example here. And you always want to start cross stitch from the top to the bottom. And the pattern includes graphs for exactly what to stitch, but you can stitch anything you want in these white panels. Really, anything you want. So let's do a close-up here. I have a length of yarn on a tapestry needle. I've just a couple feet, or a few feet, I guess. And I'm going to come in at the lower left corner of one of these squares. Now this is how you have to start thinking about it, is the square starts just to the right of the vertical line, goes across over the vertical line, straight up, and then back across. It'll be more clear as I get a couple of stitches on here. So I've come up the lower left corner, I go in the upper right, and then back down through the lower right. It might even be better if I didn't explain it with words, if I just let you watch. Upper right, lower right. You can see I'm only working half of the cross stitch. We're going to get this half done and then work back the other way to close it up. Upper right, lower right, just to the right of the vertical line. And look at me, I'm getting all my lefts and rights correct. I'm not mixing them up. Okay, you work this all the way across as much as the pattern tells you to. And then once you, I'm not going to finish all the way across, but once you get the length finished that way, then you go back the other direction. You're going to go into the same holes that you came out of before. you're going to close up this, you're going to make this cross by going in this same hole here and back down through this hole, but going the other direction. And then when you finish up that X, kind of give it a tug. You want it to look good. If it's loosey-goosey tension or something, you want it to be sure to tighten it up, or if it's too tight, you want to loosen it, because the cross stitch is definitely decorative. So go in back down into this same hole and out the bottom. I think the cross stitch is so fun. I love it. I love working regular cross stitch, you know, like cross stitch on fabric. But I don't get a chance to do it much. This is like my chance to work cross stitch. And then when you get to the end of the row, you can go up into the hole where you're supposed to go, but skip down and drop yourself down a row. You see that? Then I'm all set up to work the next left to right row. You know, you'll probably want to work up a swatch of Tunisian crochet to make sure you're getting good gauge. And when you do, you might want to practice the cross stitch a little bit before you actually try it on your blanket. Work on getting your tension nice. Anyway, I love it. You want to, we'll just shoot another half-hour of video of me doing the cross stitch because I don't want to stop. No, I think you quite have it, so I will stop there. And the next thing we're going to do is seaming. Now this is a mock-up of one of the big panels, but it's not done yet. And this is a mock-up of one of the narrow panels, but it's not done yet. And I'm going to use a different color of yarn for seaming, which you won't use. You'll want to use a matching color of yarn, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And this is just the mattress stitch, and Tunisian crochet ends up coming together so nicely because everything's so square and perfect. And so what I'm going to do is start with my tapestry needle and yarn and go into the corner of this piece, go through once, go through twice, tighten that up, and then go through the very corner of this piece. Okay, so that's your two pieces pretty much attached. And I have this tail here that I need to weave in. Really clever people end up leaving a long tail for seaming later. I just don't like all that extra yarn flopping around, so I never do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is a mattress stitch, and this is just like with knitting, except for we have different looking stitches. I'm going to go, I guess the V goes this way. You want to go under both legs of the V. Let me scoot this up a bit. Under both legs of the V going this way. At the very edge. And then jump over here and go under both legs of the V on this side. Okay, that's the beginning. You're going to go into the same hole you came out of, go under both legs of the V over there, go into the same hole you came out of over here. You just keep doing this back and forth. And I like to keep it loose for, I don't know, a few inches. And those of you who've watched me do mattress stitching videos before, you know, I love doing this because I love the magic moment of tightening it all together. It is like magic. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it up. Kind of hang on to it down here and tug on this. And when you do, you get this gorgeous seam. Usually what you do is you tug it and it gets all scrunchy, and then you straighten it back out. And look at that gorgeous seam. And then I usually stretch it back out a little bit so I can see where I came out of last time and go back into that same hole. I'm going to keep doing this up into the next color so you can see how well this all comes together. Okay? scrunch it up and straighten it back out, and look how nice this seam looks. Isn't that great? I even used this yellow yarn and you can't see it at all. Mattress stitch does leave a seam in the back of the work, but it's fine. It's a blanket. It's helping with structure, helping keep the whole thing together. And that is it. That is all the techniques used in this modern Tunisian quilt. I hope you enjoy your free pattern, and that's thanks to Knitter's Pride and the products of theirs that I used in the video. Their Tunisian crochet interchangeable hook set, as well as their knit blockers. Be sure to look for those, and good luck.